pick. Also, to keep in mind, again, similar matchup as last time, but this time, Whimsicott is the Tailwind Pokemon, not Aerodactyl, because of the Cleaver's presence on this matchup, which could make things a little bit easier for Lorcy. But yes, it's here. I wanted to see Cleavor, and I am happy. Thank you, Justin. Always here with his fun Tuck Pokemon to make me personally enjoy the tournament more.
Yeah, y'all didn't see it on camera, but Scott gave a little fist bump when we saw Cleavor come out because, yeah, this is a Pokemon that we've been wanting to see for a long time here, but it's going to have a lot of trouble against the Delphox and Sneasler, of course. Sneasler having the ability to go for fake outs, but Kingambit is also threatening the Sucker Punch right back into Delphox, so gonna have to see how these players are gonna be able to position in turn one.
Yeah, these Pokemon and Lorcy kind of all want to do too many things, right? Yep. So it's sort of interesting. You'd love to get a substitute up on Delphox, so you don't have to worry about getting Sucker Punched now or later. You'd love to close combat that Kingambit, but it does have a Chople Berry, so that's not gonna do enough alone, although it'll likely put it in range of a Heat Wave. You probably don't want to totally ignore Cleaver here, who's gonna dunk Delphox if it gets a chance. So lots to consider. I think both trainers are gonna have to win the mind games here a little bit and anticipate what their opponent's gonna do, because they both have a lot of pretty good options.
Extremely volatile turn one here because of that. As a result, Lorcy is going to go ahead and just protect the Delphox here, scout out what Justin wants to do, critically blocks that Stone Axe from setting the Stealth Rock, and Sneasler is able to now fire off a close combat into the Kingambit. Kingambit does go ahead and munch down on that Chople Berry, but is able to survive with just a few hit points as Sneasler's defenses drop thanks to that close combat. That, of course, will activate Sneasler's White Herb, which is part of what has made Sneasler so strong in this meta. It's the ability to now get that Unburden boost, tank that Iron Head, and now Sneasler is the fastest thing on the field and immediately threatening a KO onto Cleavor.
Yeah, very impactful there. And I think one thing to keep in mind with that first turn is Lorcy's kind of dictating that, right? Even though both sides could have had options to trade well, since his Pokemon were quicker, he kind of got to determine how that play was going to play out. I think Justin does a pretty good job of avoiding too many losses there, but Lorcy does now know that, hey, you're locked into a rock-type attack, so Delphox is in some danger, and White Herb really matters there. Unburden's kind of whatever, where it was faster anyway, but Iron Head almost certainly would have picked up a knockout there with reduced defense on Sneasler, and also, even if somehow it had hung on, which doesn't look like it was possible here, the Sucker Punch would also do more, where now, even though Sucker Punch is sort of being threatened into either slot, would not pick up Sneasler here, would enable it to pick up the Kingambit if it wanted to, but Delphox kind of forced to flee with both Sucker Punch and Stone Axe being forced threatened into that slot.
Yeah. Basky Legion now out on the field, but Kingambit Sucker Punch does connect onto Sneasler and is able to pick up that KO.
See how powerful that Pokemon's attack stat is there, and how weak Sneasler's defenses are, unfortunately.
And that just means that Cleavor gets to fire off this Stone Axe into the Basky Legion, and that means that the Stealth Rock has now been set on the field. So Delphox is going to take 25% damage on switching, Incineroar as well, and here it comes, trying to get a little bit of Intimidate down onto the Cleavor, but giving away a free boost to that Kingambit.
A lot of fun field attacks here. So Kingambit going to get stronger. Incineroar going to come in and ensure that this Cleavor gets weaker. The Stealth Rock going to do more damage to Incineroar, as you mentioned, as well as the Delphox in the back. But some interesting things to keep in mind here. Certainly the Basky Legion going to have the Aqua Jet, so kind of a means of getting over that Sucker Punch potentially on the Kingambit. So it's being threatened too. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun on that turn. Even Intimidated too, you can imagine Cleavor easily going to pick up a knockout on Basky Legion if it's able to attack it somehow, or some pretty devastating damage to Incineroar. And there's still two Pokemon in the back from Justin for Lorcy to figure out. He's running out of resources pretty quickly here, where Basky Legion heavily weakened, the other two Pokemon both weak to Stealth Rock. So Cleavor showing off its stuff early on here.
Yeah, Cleavor has already done over 100% damage based off of the Stone Axe, and then also the guaranteed damage on Stealth Rock to both Delphox and Incineroar. But actually, Lorcy is showing off the tech here. The helping hand onto the Incineroar means that Aqua Jet from Basky Legion is enough to finally get the Cleavor off the field. This Kingambit, though, doesn't take the bait. Instead, will go for the safe Kowtow Cleave to pick up the KO onto Basky Legion. Now is just going to be the final two Fire-type Pokemon for Lorcy up against Kingambit and two other friends.
Yeah, I think it's going to matter a lot what these friends are. You kind of guess one of them probably Charizard, who's not going to do very well here as the one Mega Evolved Pokemon's team, but hey, maybe not. Whimsicott going to come in here. A very interesting Pokemon where it's going to make it more difficult for Delphox to use that tech move, right? Where I think probably potentially a big reason why Whimsica's on this team at all. Where,
Totally.
you know, like, oh, I'll just substitute in front of the King Gambit. That'll be easy. And that could lead immediately to a very devastating encore on the one really powerful attacking Pokemon left on the team. So a complicated position here for Lorcy. He's not going to be able to just do whatever he wants. And Incineroar are going to have to take us back to yesteryear and have to carry this game, perhaps.
Yeah, especially because the Whimsicott is Focus Sash. That means that Lorcy would have to double up into it to get that Pokemon off the field, or maybe hope for a burn on a Flare Blitz to try and get rid of the Encore threat here from Justin. And that may just be the only real option, is going for the Flare Blitz and hoping for a burn and then a substitute. But Justin covering for that by going for the Protect on Whimsicott. And on King Gambit, just
I guess
to
it makes sense, right? Just like, okay, let's see if Delphox does something that I can encore. If it doesn't, I'm still going to get some intel into what perhaps Joshua wants to do here. So Heat Wave going to do nothing. We'll see what Incineroar does, but spoilers, it won't do anything either. It is that double up into the Whimsicott, so Justin not going to walk into that and doesn't get anything to encore here, but potentially get some information.
I mean, you do get the ability to encore an attack for the for the King Gambit to go for Sucker Punches here.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, where I mean, so it sort of forces in air quotes a protect from Delphox if you don't want that to happen. In which case, you know, King Gambit still an interesting situation, although it can't protect anymore, right? So if you want to go for that win con, you'd have to switch King Gambit out and take some damage wherever in the back. If that's Pokemon Charizard, I think you're pretty happy about it, right? But if it's perhaps that Garchomp instead, there's no need. And we just see the encore, we do not see a protect, and Delphox, I think, it's in trouble.
Yeah, the encore from it actually fails. The Sucker Punch fails into the Delphox, which means the encore gets to fire off this Heat Wave. So likely they're going for the substitute, but encore.
Yeah, so then, yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're going for a status move, even if you get encored into attack, that doesn't work out. So Justin perhaps learning some mechanics here. That's unlucky. Flare Blitz going to come in, back up this Whimsicott, and what looked like it was a pretty decisive game state for Justin to win, instead looking like it perhaps is going to be a easy win the other direction there. You know, it's there's some interesting mechanics in Pokemon Champions where I do not believe that's the way it used to work. This is why we ladder in game. And yeah, it is. So it is Charizard.
Charizard in the back.
That's kind of why I was thinking. Okay, you go. It's not going to do much against these Pokemon anyway. So sending it out is a sacrifice there for King Gambit in order to set up that encore. Seemed like it was a necessary play to me. But again, I think Justin probably just didn't realize that that's the way that encore works now. So instead, Charizard going to need to do a 2v1. Still not impossible, but
certainly not impossible.
Yeah, going to need to do some serious damage here for the most used Mega Evolution Pokemon in this format.
Yeah, the big problem that Justin's Charizard is going to have is that it will be slower than the Delphox. And of course, these Pokemon resist everything that Charizard can fire off.
But good start for Charizard.
That's a good start for sure. There's the Heat Wave connecting onto both Delphox and Incineroar, so that is good damage down onto Lorcy's Pokemon from Justin. There's the Citrus Berry that will heal up the Incineroar just a little bit. The Flare Blitz deals good damage right back, so Justin's going to need a couple more of those.
Yeah, it can still happen. If I'm on Lorcy's side of the field, I think I probably think about a Psyshock here to
guarantee damage.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It seems like a little risk we don't have to take, but you know what? I appreciate it. Let's have fun. It's a stream match. This is round 4, round 2. You know, let's just go crazy here. Yeah, why not? Heat Wave hits this time. Yeah,
Heat Wave hits this time, so that's good damage onto Charizard. Here is the opposing Heat Wave. Will pick up the KO onto Delphox. Incineroar is back down to 72. Gets a crit onto the Delphox. I'm not 100% sure the crit was, it definitely was necessary there after the Stealth Rock there, but then the Flare Blitz connects onto Charizard, picks up that Pokemon, and Lorcy takes game 1 in a much closer fashion than it looked like it was going to be there in the mid-game.
Yeah, that would be a little bit crazy where one more Heat Wave miss, and I think we're talking about how Justin inexplicably was able to pull that one off. So I think 2 things in that match maybe to look back on that were a little bit surprising as we went through that really influenced the outcome. Like the one is, Encore's mechanics in reference to Sucker Punch are a little bit weird, where Sucker Punch does damage if you selected an attack that turn, not if you're using an attack. So the Encore is a weird situation where it doesn't work that way anymore. If you selected a status move, you can't be Sucker Punch that turn. I believe it also works that way with Orangaroos and Instruct if you were somehow able to attack and then be locked into a status move. Yep. The other thing that I think was a little bit surprising, at least to me, is the trainers know each other's natures, but not their training, right? I'm sorry, their stat alignment, not their natures. The Adamant, the Sneasler on Lorcy's side is Adamant. I think sometimes when you see Adamant Sneasler, at least for me, the assumption is like, oh, this Pokemon's much more likely to be trained defensively. So I was kind of expecting it to survive that Sucker Punch, but revealing that it's definitely a more offensively trained Sneasler. Not too surprising for Joshua. I guess he's the player who could have been surprised. I certainly knows how his own Sneasler is trained, but I'm a little surprised that Justin was expecting to get that knockout.
Yeah, well, that is the power of King Gambit sometimes, and if you feel like you're on, sometimes you just need to go for it, because that Sneasler was in a really good position before going down to the Sucker Punch, so at least the extra damage could have been big onto that Pokemon for Chip. But here we go, heading into our second game here of our second Swiss round 4 match between Joshua Lorcy and Justin Knox. Both of these players have been at the top tables multiple times throughout the Scarlet and Violet years, and then Lorcy previously before that as well. Here is a shakeup here. Sneasler and Basculegion led by Lorcy versus the King Gambit and Cleaver once again from Justin.
Yeah, I think it's a great adjustment for Lorcy there. And even though he won game 1, I think, again, Justin knowing that mechanic alone is enough, I think game 1 would have been swapped. So instead, Lorcy's really the one who needs to change up here, I think, is the one who kind of have like the losing line in game 1. And Basculegion is great for that, potentially threatening some damage into both of these Pokemon. And you know, difficult spots for Justin because, yeah, the fake out into King Gambit and attacking into Cleaver is a little bit too scary. So instead, Whimsicott coming in perhaps to try to Encore a Dire Claw, or Encore a fake out rather, but gets caught by the Dire Claw. Yeah,
Dire Claw on the switch in. Whimsicott is taken all the way down to Focus Sash immediately. No Sucker Punch coming out from King Gambit. Liquidation will clean up that final hit point off of Whimsicott. And now this means that King Gambit is going to be able to fire back with either a Kowtow Cleave into the Basculegion or an Iron Head once more into the Sneasler. So we do know definitely from this position that a Sucker Punch onto Sneasler will pick up the KO there, but Whimsicott going down immediately is huge.
Yeah, I think interesting too. The Sneasler it took way more damage than it took last time. I think like 15 more damage than Iron Head. So we'll likely see both the high and the low roll, although I don't think that HP is going to matter too much. And yeah, awesome read where I think kind of maybe a little bit on both players' side where Justin anticipated, okay, well, you know, if you're actually going to try to knock King Gambit out, you have to spend enough that I don't think you're going to do it. But calling that Whimsicott switch, now not only have to worry about Tailwind or critically Encore, as we saw potentially could have been devastating in the end game, especially assuming both of the Fire-type Mega Evolved Pokemon in the back, or I guess even if it's Floette, I think really big knockout to get for Lorcy.
Absolutely huge moment there for Lorcy to get the KO onto Whimsicott. That is so much positioning, that's so much disruption that is now off the field for Justin. Lorcy's going to take that advantage and try to protect this Basculegion. Cleaver fired off the Stone Axe into the Basculegion. No Sucker Punch once again. That means Sneasler gets to fire off another attack. Close combat into Cleaver, not quite enough to pick up the KO in one shot there. Definitely put it into Aqua Jet range though, as Sneasler will go ahead and reset the stats with the White Herb, and of course get that Unburden boost once more. But of course, it's the double up into Basculegion. The power of the Focus Sash Basculegion means that Justin has to double target it and gets really punished for it.
Yeah, that's a really big deal there too, where you know, I think that not getting the connection with the bye Cleaver, we'll talk about this later.
Yeah, absolutely. Cleaver goes down from the Aqua Jet here. And that means that Justin has now lost a second Pokemon. King Gambit finally fires off the Sucker Punch and gets that Sneasler off the field. So final 2 Pokemon left for Justin. It's going to be the King Gambit +1, while Lorcy has plenty of options remaining available to him.
So what I was going to say there, it's a big deal that Cleaver didn't get to use the Stone Axe, right? It's not like any other attack where it's like, oh no, I lost the damage, which is still bad, but also you have to connect with Stone Axe in order to start the, set the Stealth Rock, right? So because of that, Incineroar going to come in healthier, and so is that last Pokemon in the back, which could be a huge deal if it's a Delphox who were able to maintain 25% extra HP rather than the 1/8 that it normally is. And that's a big deal here, right? Where also, you know, Basculegion, if it had switched out, would have to worry about Sash being broken. So Cleaver in a perfect world is really impactful in this matchup. This time not being able to do much because Lorcy's made some great reads, and this is a huge lead now.
All right, Justin will go ahead and protect the Floette here. A major adjustment from Justin from game 1. No Charizard, instead it's going to be the Floette. King Gambit also protects, just trying to blow the fake out from Incineroar. That means nothing will happen here for Justin or Lorcy.
Yeah, so just vibing for now, but I just don't know what Justin does here. Where, especially with that Sass and the Basculegion, there's just so much ground to make up. You know, we will see a Mega Evolution from Floette on this turn, but yeah, I just have to figure out a way. Okay, I got to tap this Basculegion twice. Certainly, you know, both of these Pokemon could potentially knock it out before it can move, but then you're taking a ton of damage back from Incineroar, and there still is that final Pokemon to worry about. Where, you know, if it's Delphox, like, hey, you know, that's maybe you win some Mind Games to Gambit, that's enough. But like, getting rid of this Basculegion is the most most important thing for Justin right now.
And the good news for Justin is that Floette should outspeed this Basculegion, as it is the focus sash and not one of the finisher choice scarf Basculegion we've seen before. That means that Basculegion is forced into Aqua Jet here, while King Gambit actually goes for the Sucker Punch onto Incineroar. Doesn't fall for the bait, instead just gets some guaranteed damage onto Incineroar. Floette following up with a big Moonblast. Still not enough to pick up the KO, though. That means Incineroar gets to survive with Citrus Berry. Enough health to survive another Sucker Punch from that King Gambit, which will need to be able to do because of the that King Gambit is now down to 33. Actually, now with that recoil, probably still picks up the KO on that.
Yeah, I think it's close, but I think it gets it, and that's a big deal because, yeah, I mean, how do you get now to a position where that stops being a problem, where Floette kind of needs to attack both of these Pokemon, where, an Aqua Jet into the King Gambit slot while Incineroar just plows away on this. Floette's still going to be a lot of damage to deal with. Instead, Basculegion going to protect. It's like, I don't even want to deal with this game. I think you have to target me. So see if we can, Incineroar can get some cheeky damage here. But unlike the Floette we saw last round, this one does no Dazzling Gleam. Going to pick up a knockout, I assume, on this Incineroar.
Yeah, good news. Justin can actually hit 2 Pokemon at once with the Floette, so does not have to worry too much about that. That just means that Incineroar has gone down, and that means Lorcy gets a free switch in here now to Delphox. And this is actually really difficult for the King Gambit at this point. It does have that boost, but at the same time, both Basculegion and Delphox are able to completely ignore the Sucker Punch, so Justin has to make a call here, or else King Gambit is just going to go down without doing anything.
Yeah, it's a tricky spot, but it's not impossible where you can't get caught. But yeah, I mean, Aqua Jet likely going to pick up a knockout here, so you either have to hope you survive or maybe you go for a double. But he's the first protect, so we'll have to see now if Joshua calls that and goes for the double into the Floette instead.
Oh no, there's the Aqua Jet into King Gambit. Lorcy went for the guaranteed KO on that Pokemon, and Delphox will fire back with a Psyshock. Deals a lot of damage into that Floette, hitting the weaker physical defense on that Pokemon thanks to Psyshock's unique abilities there. Dazzling Gleam deals good damage. That would be a 2-hit KO onto Basculegion, and we are just sort of back in the same spot, though.
Yeah, it was probably checkmate, right? Where unless King Gambit can survive this Aqua Jet, it'll be knocked out, and then Floette will be knocked out by the Delphox, and that's why you use Psyshock onto Delphox. That, like most Fairy-type Pokemon, that Floette's much stronger on the special side, so Psychic probably wouldn't have done it. Aqua Jet going to pick up this King Gambit, and Lorcy's going to take the set.
Yeah, with that Aqua Jet, King Gambit goes down. Justin no longer has any offensive pressure as Psyshock cleans it up.